Hey folks, Jim Thomas here, and welcome to my channel. Our topic today, it's I think a very timely topic. It's a business turnaround strategy for your company. You know, we're in an era right now where a lot of companies are struggling, a lot of companies are looking for ways to survive. And I want to walk you through some basic steps of what you need to do to evaluate where you're at, and then also some basic steps of what you can do, to get your business back on track. One of the unfortunate things that I see is in dealing with a lot of companies right now, I have a lot of folks that will contact me and say, hey, can you help me shut down? Can you help me close? We just can't make it work. And if they'd have just called 30 days earlier, 60 days earlier, 90 days earlier, the odds are significantly better that we could have helped them get out of this. And so for anyone who's struggling right now, hey, you're better off, let's take a look at it now. Let's see if we can fix it now. The longer you wait, the bigger this hole that you dig, the more difficult, it becomes to get out of this. And my primary business over the years has always been the fitness industry, the gym industry. But as a result of relationships with clients and other businesses that they open and things of that nature, I've had the opportunity to do business turnarounds and consulting work all the way from the financial services industry, all the way to, the local hair salon and teaching the hairdresser, how to upsell, for shampoo afterwards. So we've run a pretty good gamut of this, and I want to walk you through some of this and how you can start addressing this today. What I'd love to hear is in the comments below, questions you have, things you're going through, maybe even strategies that you've utilized, to get your business back on track. If you need additional help, we are offering a complimentary 45-minute strategy session. You can click the link below and get that scheduled. And then if you want to learn more about me, you can check out our website at fmconsulting.net. So with that said, let's get into this, and this is what I'm going to call, a preliminary, turnaround strategy. And the time frame for this, it can vary actually a little bit. I would say that the 30 to 90 days, and depends on the circumstances. If we get there quick enough, we've had it happen in 30 days. Things have fallen into place, and we've gotten results pretty quick. More often than not, it might take up to 90, but again, as I mentioned earlier, the longer you wait on this, the more difficult it becomes. My advice is don't wait. So our preliminary turnaround strategy. So tip number one here is you want to take control of your cash now. And so the bullet points are we must stop the bleeding. This is about conserving cash. No spending, none, without your CEO, without your owner's authorization. Owner has to approve every single dime spent. Down to the penny, not even the dime, down to the penny, okay? There's a complete hiring freeze right now. We're not going to be adding additional staff during this turnaround strategy. And checks will only be signed. Only sign checks to keep vendors from shutting you off. And essentially what we're talking about here is you're going to pay the bills that keep you in business. That's it. Okay. Other than that, we're going to talk about how to address some of that, but we want to negotiate our way out of that. And then the final thing here, in terms of taking control of your cash right now, is you want to identify hidden cash. Where is there hidden cash in your business? And I'll give you an example. We had a turnaround we were doing a number of years ago, and we were in this process. Okay, let's identify the hidden cash here. And what we had found in going through the business is they had a storage area, and it was jam-packed. It was full of still in the box ceiling fans. And apparently a couple years earlier, they had planned on putting in all new ceiling fans, throughout the building. It didn't happen. These fans got put into storage, and there they have sat this entire time. Well, this is a good example of being able to find hidden cash. We were able to take those ceiling fans, able to sell them, turn them into cash, and now use that, to help push the turnaround of this business forward. So that's taking control of cash right now. Be really mindful of that. This is the number one thing you have to do. You have to do it first. We have to conserve cash. Number two is we want to forecast our cash. And what this is going to be, it's similar to budgeting that you might do in your personal life. Start looking at your budget. What are your expenses? What are your revenue streams? Let's really look at that budget and let's look at it fairly. And a lot of times when you start looking at budgets and you start doing this is, where we make the mistake is we overshoot it. On the revenue side, I know in a lot of new businesses that we talk to that want their pro formas reviewed, they want their business plans reviewed. One of the common things that we find is they're way too far out there on revenues, and a lot of times we'll tell them, hey, if you can cut the revenue in half and you think that can work, then maybe you've got something here. So we want to be a little conservative here. We want to be optimistic, but let's kind of balance that, with some realism here as well. You want to review the checkbook and make sure this month's expenses do not exceed the current bank balance. Okay, whatever you have in the bank, we cannot let the expenses exceed that. And we're going to have to hold firm on this. This is going to require some discipline, and it's going to require some tough decisions. Only pay what you must. You only pay what you have to pay, period. And then our last bullet point, consider, selling accounts receivable. Depending on the billing companies you work with, there's programs out there that, some billing companies might advance you as much as 3 times your average monthly receivable. And look at other accounts receivable that you have. Can that be sold? Let's investigate that. How can we turn some of these future receivables into cash right now? So number 2 is we want to forecast cash. Number 3 on our turnaround strategy is we want to find cost savings. Let's start looking for cost savings. And some of this, may indeed be you may have to eliminate, departments in your business. Most corporate things such as operations, marketing, accounting, websites, look at the various departments in here and where are there savings within all that. Telephone expenses, business supplies, advertising, employee reimbursements. Look at all of this and say, okay, where can we make adjustments? Now, there's going to have to be cuts. There's no doubt about it. There is a difference, though, between cutting and choking. And we're not trying to choke it off. We're not trying to choke off the business. But we are going to have to make the necessary cuts, to make sure we can pay the bills. We cannot let our expenses get ahead of the amount of money that we're sitting on. Number 4 is let's look at restructuring our trade debt. And essentially, you're going to have to be a professional debt negotiator. And if you don't have one, you want to find one. These are things that my company can help you with as well, or do your own research locally and find someone that can help you with this. But one of the first things I would suggest that we do is get letters out to your vendors. Any vendor you owe money to, make phone calls to them, get letters out to them, get emails out to them. Talk to them, communicate with them, and let's look to restructure this debt. We're trying to get relief. We're trying to get relief in here, to give us time to get this business back on track. Because if you don't get it back on track, you end up filing bankruptcy. These vendors aren't going to get anything. You do get it back on track. They're back to hopefully where you were, and they've got themselves a 5-star client. Number 5 on our turnaround strategy. This can be a very, very difficult one for some folks. And we simply call it laying off the deadwood and underperformers. Lay off the deadwood and underperformers. And you're going to have to lay off some people. And before I get into this, let me just share this with you. A number of years ago, we had a group of clubs that we were working with, and it was a significant turnaround that had to be done here. And we started talking about the need to lay off underperformers and the need to lay off people. And it's not easy, but it's a must. And the group we were talking with, they just could not bring themselves to want to do this. And they chose not to do it. And in the end, it cost them. And their company ended up going out of business. They went from a multi-million-dollar successful business to one that failed. And this was a big part of it right here. Because when you start looking at payroll, other than your rent, this is your single highest expense. And we have to make sure everybody's on the same page and make sure that everybody's performing like they need to. So laying off deadwood and underperformers, this layoff, it's about survival. It's about the survival of your business. And it's about the survival of being able to pay the bills to all your vendors and all your customers and all your clients that are utilizing your services. Sometimes, it's about sacrificing good people. There's just no getting around it. Hard decisions will need to be made. And sometimes this is where an outside consultant can help, whereas they can look at it a little bit differently. They can, bring some realism to it and really what's going to happen, and can perhaps even deliver that message sometimes. But we're going to have to lay off, underperformers. Number 6, we want to start collecting more money from our customers. We want to start collecting more money from our customers. And this could be such things as, collections at the front desk. When customers are coming in the fitness industry, for example, collections at the front. If they're, delinquent on their payments, if they're, EFT, we need a new credit card number or whatever the case might be. It could be, selling more things, just from a selling standpoint. One of the things that we know just from pure data is that your customers, of all your customers, 20% of them will actually pay more money if we'll simply ask. So, let's get in the habit of asking. Let's get a strategy there. And, settlement offers, before any accounts are sent to collection, you've got a long list of customers and clients and folks you work with. Before you send them to collection, send them out a settlement letter, send them out an amnesty letter, come up with something creative. How much cash can we get, from them? Number 7, look at selling your receivables. Look at selling any receivables that you have. As we mentioned, notify your billing company, see if they have this type program, and make that request that you might want to either sell receivables, you might want to get an advance on receivables, and look around and see where you can sell these type assets. This is all about conserving cash and getting as much cash in the bank right now as you possibly can. Number 8 on our turnaround strategy is you want to begin looking at restructuring long-term agreements. Any long-term agreements that you have, any supplier or lease agreements that you have out there, whether it be any supplier you have, certainly, any equipment leases that you have. And one of the things I would comment on that I see quite frequently, because this requires kind of a debt negotiator, right? You have to be a debt negotiator here. And I get folks all the time, they talk about wanting to restructure their equipment lease, and they'll say, well, yeah, they don't seem to want to work with me. And, well, the reason they don't is because if you're current. Okay, if you're current, they're probably not going to want to work with you. So, keep that in mind when you're talking to some of these folks that you're trying to restructure with. Number 9, look at restructuring any kind of long-term bank debt. Any bank debt that you have, look at restructuring that. One thing's for sure that we know, none of these folks that you've borrowed money from or that you owe money to, they don't want to be in your business. That's not their specialty. That's not where they want to be. If you will communicate with these folks in advance, don't make them come chasing you down. You communicate with them in advance. Let them know what's happening. More often than not, you're going to have success. I know over the years, we've had an enormous amount of success, with this format. And really the biggest reason, I think, is if we can get there early enough, but then also we're going to communicate. We're going to let everybody know what's going on. There's no secrets, no surprises, nothing. Number 10. On our turnaround strategy is we want to sell unproductive assets. So, look at your business. What unproductive assets do you have? What have we acquired that's just no longer producing? I mean, I walk into businesses all the time and, they have some great things, but it's not being used. Well, let's sell it. You want to convert these assets into cash as quickly as possible. And this is equipment and supplies. I mean, you name it. Okay, but sell your unproductive assets. Number 11, look at sales and leaseback. And this really would come into play, whereas if you owned the building that you're in, maybe you owned it outright. Maybe there's an opportunity there, maybe to sell it and then lease it back from the new owner. That could get you some significant cash. You might have equipment that's paid for. Maybe you could put a new lease on that and give you some additional cash to help get you through this. And then finally, number 12 on our turnaround strategy is look for other sources of financing. And one of the things I would tell anybody who's watching this, wherever you're at in your business, even if you're not going through a turnaround right now, one of the things as a business owner that you should always be doing is always be looking for funding, always be looking for financing, always. Not, you may not need it now, things might be great, but always be looking. But when you do, for sure, let's be looking for other sources, and let's just be really clear here. This is going to be a difficult ride. This is going to be challenging, but you can get through it. You can get through it. Now, so that's some initial, turnaround strategies there. Let's talk a little bit about what a plan might look like and what you're going to need to do, okay? And if you've not already done it, we want to start gathering data. What we want to understand is where are we at right now? And in some cases, what caused this to happen? But where are we at right now? What's working well from a business standpoint? What's not? What challenges do we have? And this can be, key staff interviews. This could be, you may have suggestion boxes, throughout your gym, throughout your business. Email blast, Survey Monkey, was a good one. But you want to start gathering data, because what you want to start to learn and maybe better understand is what's working well, what's not, where are you at. Number 2, once you gather all this, you want to analyze this data and you want to create a turnaround strategy. Now, this needs to be done quickly. We're not looking to wait around here. We don't have time. We need to get this information. We need to understand this information, and we need to move quickly. And, the solutions are usually obvious, quite frankly, and there's usually only a limited number of choices. This is not normally terribly difficult other than, the things that kind of pull on the heartstrings a little bit. So number 3 on our turnaround plan is identify the core businesses. What is your core business? Identify it. Because what you want to do here is you want to keep your cash generators and get rid of the cash neutrals and the cash sinks. I mean, the ones that are really generating the cash, there's where you want to go. The ones that are neutral, just break even's all it is, or you're losing money, we want to get rid of these. And if you're in the fitness industry, group exercise, what's that doing for you? Membership, what's that doing for you? Personal training, front desk, anything else that you may have out there, analyze this. And what is your core business? What is generating, the largest amount of cash for you? The cash neutrals, the cash sinks, it's time for them to go. Number 4, you want to discover, what is your competitive positioning? And one of the things, again, for you folks that have been through a lot of the training and a lot of the on-site work that we do and remote work that we do, one of the things we talk about frequently is differentiation. What are you doing that's different? What are you doing that's different from everybody else? What are you doing that none of your competitors are? Okay, so if you haven't done this, discover what is your competitive positioning, and whatever you've defined it to be, is this a sustainable position for you? Okay, if it's not, we need to look at maybe something else. Okay, and then the question you want to ask yourself is, how will this retrenchment around your core business, how will that affect your competitive position? Okay, so when you retrench, if you're getting rid of your cash neutrals, you're getting rid of your cash sinks, will that, or how will that affect your competitive advantage in the marketplace? And then I would even pose this question to you. What competitive advantage do you want to have? Have you thought about this? If not, do. What competitive advantage do you want to have? Okay? And if a better market position is available, is there a better market position out there for you? If there is, can you make money at it? So really sit down and discover your competitive positioning. Okay, number 5 on our turnaround plan is you want to develop a sales forecast and sales strategy. And first of all, I'm going to use the word sensible. You heard me talk about it earlier. Sometimes when we start talking about revenues, we get, maybe overly optimistic and sometimes I guess even overly pessimistic. But we want a sensible forecast, in this case for club memberships, a sensible forecast for revenues of your business. What can we do? And then what is that sales strategy going to look like? We're not looking for everyone to make it up as they go along. Something caused you to get into this problem. You didn't get into this problem because you were great at a sales strategy. Okay, you got into this problem for a host of things. So let's make sure we've got a tight sales strategy. And you want proven sales strategies. This is not the time to be doing guesswork and trying to decide, hey, here's how I do it, here's how I do it, let's see if this works. You want proven strategies here. Again, I take this moment to say that, hey, if you're not sure where you're at, you do need to talk to someone. Click that link below for a free strategy session. We're happy to talk to you, happy to walk you through this, because we want to help you save your business. All right. You want to do on the sales forecasting, make sure you're monitoring, make sure you're measuring everything. Okay, measuring your marketing, measuring the performance of your staff. Make sure these key performance indicators are being watched on a daily basis. You're not going to be able to adjust. You're not going to be able to fix these things unless you do, because one of the big things we need to do here is we need to manage, based on the objectives of this business. All right. Number 6 on the turnaround plan is redesign your organization and reduce headcount. I've mentioned this already. This is going to be a hard one, but you're going to have to do it. Redesign your organization and reduce headcount. Headcount, payroll, people. This is going to be the biggest cost savings in a turnaround. When you look at the operation of any business, your rent and your payroll, those are your 2 biggest costs, and if those get out of control, boy, it gets tough. Okay, and what you want to do when you're looking at these, reducing headcounts and even underperformers, and maybe not even underperformers, maybe they are just in a non-core part of your business. But start with positions in the non-core part of your business. So whatever you've identified as non-core, positions that are cash neutral, that are cash sink, let's start looking at reducing the headcount there. We want to start looking at scaling back management. We want to start looking at scaling back support positions. Again, this is about cash conservation. This is about making sure we've got more cash than we do expense. Okay, we're going to have to make some tough decisions, because a lot of times, if you look back on a lot of this, a lot of owners would come back and probably say, simple complacency, caused them to not do some of these things. But we have to make these difficult decisions. Number 7, we need to find cost savings. We need to find cost savings. This turnaround plan, where do we have cost savings? Let's look at commissions. Let's look at our commission structure. It may be, you may not even have a commission structure, and you might want to get one to help motivate people to go to a higher level. I've been in situations where you just get one person that gets on fire and does this. That can make the biggest difference for you. Or let's make sure, if you do have a commission schedule, let's make sure it's truly rewarding performance of those that deserve it. Okay, find cost savings in your staff. Everybody at some level has to be in sales. Everybody has to be accountable to some kind of level of performance. Look at cost savings in advertising and marketing. Monitor this. Just because you put it out there, and even just because people see it, doesn't mean you're getting results. Okay, this is not about how hard we're working the effort. This is about results. We need to get results, and so find cost savings in your advertising. Unless you're getting sales from it, it's not doing you a whole lot of good. And we need to be looking at things that are proven. We're not trying to test out here. And so go through your entire business. Where are there cost savings? and let's start refining this and making sure that, one of the things I like to say is, our job description is to protect the investment. And so we're continually looking, hey, where are there cost savings here? And I know a lot of times when I get into, initially with a turnaround, one of the things that I'll do is, I'll evaluate existing assets, things we're already spending money on, things that are going to be there no matter what, your website, how we answer the phone, how we follow up, things of this nature. And let's make sure we're operating as effectively and as efficiently as we possibly can here. And there's savings in there too in taking these things and making them more effective, making them more efficient, making them more productive for you, to get your business, back on track. Number 8 on our turnaround plan here is we want to develop a personnel strategy. And so some of the things we want to look at here on developing a personnel strategy is a plan to motivate the remaining troops. Okay, we've laid off some folks, we've had to make some cuts, we've had to make some adjustments. Let's get a plan together to motivate the remaining troops. And one of the great things you can do is make sure you're holding meetings with them, make sure you're talking with them. Hey, let's hear them out. They might have some ideas that work too. And if they do, from my standpoint, if they've got ideas that I think might make some sense, I'm more inclined to want to do it because they're going to have ownership of it, and they're going to be more inclined to want to make this work more so than maybe just something out of the ordinary. As far as developing a personnel strategy, also when you look at this, a key technique is going to be compensation. Make sure you've got a compensation strategy in place. That I like that variable strategy whereby the more they produce, the more revenue they bring in, the more sales volume they bring in, the more they can make. And again, not everybody maybe is going to follow that all the way to the top, but you get one or two that does. This is going to be a big difference maker for you. Make sure your compensation is based on performance. In most gyms, most businesses, there's a certain amount of business you're probably going to write just because you're showing up. Well, that's more handling. That's really not producing. That's really not selling. And so we want to make sure that we're truly rewarding performance. So when you're analyzing this compensation program, make sure it's about performance. And then also when you're looking at it, have monetary and non-monetary rewards. The money, okay, certainly, have that in there. But then, things that are non-money related. It could be, hey, if you hit a certain number, we'll give you a half day off on Friday, and hey, I'll cover your shift for you. It could be something as simple as that. It could be, hey, we're going to designate a prime parking space right up front, where you get front level parking, for the next month. Things of this nature. Number 9 on our strategy here is you want to develop a funding strategy. Develop a funding strategy here. Selling receivables, reducing inventory, stretching vendors, restructuring trade debt, and then leasing companies, particularly on paid off equipment. So develop a funding strategy. How can you go about getting additional funding? How can you go about, getting additional capital, additional, money in the bank? Get a full strategy for this. Okay. Now, one of the things I'll say, and you probably can already gather after, if you've lasted this long in the presentation, this is not going to be for the faint of heart, but it will be worth it because you will save your business. You will save your business. You'll save jobs in your community. You're going to save, if you're in the fitness industry, you're going to save a place where, hopefully hundreds and thousands of people enjoy attending. You get all your vendors paid off. Your reputation stays intact, and there's going to be a tremendous sense of accomplishment when you do this. Also, what I want to suggest you do is, sit down and really look at, your financial projections. And you may have done this. Most clubs will do this when they first open. They need it as a condition of funding, right? When they do their business plan and their pro forma budgeting. But you want your sales forecast. What does that forecast look like? Staffing forecast, your cost of goods, what's your expense budget look like? What's your capital budget look like? What's your cash flow forecast? And you want to get a firm forecast on this. And then what does it look like for the next year? Try to project these things out and understand, what you have to work with and what you have to deal with. Now, you got some major turnaround objectives here. Okay. The club always has to preserve a positive cash balance. Always. You cannot go negative. We have to always preserve a positive cash balance in our bank. The clubs have to produce cash every month. Every month we have to market, we have to sell, we have to produce, and we have to generate revenue. You know, I can tell you right now, there's companies, I mean, we're doing this message here in the year 2020, the month of August. We're in the middle of a pandemic. And, you know, there's companies out there that have set their bonus strategy for 2020 for their employees. You need to beat 2019. That's what they told them. You have to beat 2019. And so many companies have kind of, you know, we've gone into full retreat mode, and we're thinking, well, there's no way I can do that. But companies out there are saying, hey, we haven't changed how we expect and what we need. We have to beat last year's numbers. Change that mindset. You want to produce cash every single month. And part of this, you know, it's kind of getting our head right there a little bit. And quite frankly, there are businesses that are breaking records right now. So it's done frequently. You know, let's make sure that, you know, we are one of the ones that are doing this as well. And make sure, in terms of these major turnaround objectives, make sure whatever you've identified as your core business position, make sure it's sustainable. Make sure your core business position is sustainable. And then finally, once you get all this together and you start doing it, make sure you have regular meetings with your key staff, and make sure you outline the agenda, and make sure you've got buy-in. Make sure we really communicate on this. We want to over-communicate and let everybody know, you know, exactly what's happening. And so this is a strategy that we have used for quite some time. It's been very successful. Again, it's not for the faint-hearted. It can be a bumpy ride. But for those of you that choose to do it, that get through it, it's going to be one of the finest things, I think, that probably you'll ever accomplish in business. Now, folks, my name's Jim Thomas. You know, my company's Fitness Management and Consulting. And again, you know, we work in additionally into businesses all the way from financial services to the, you know, the local hair salon in your neighborhood. If you need additional help on this, I mean, feel free to reach out to me. Again, you can grab the link below, grab the free strategy session. You know, if you have things that you're doing, if you're in a turnaround right now, I'd love to hear it in the comments below, what you've done, things that you have done that have made the difference, you know, in this turnaround, or questions you have about how you can advance, you know, your business forward. But if you need help, you know, don't be afraid to reach out. Don't let the maybe stubborn ego sometimes, you know, kind of get in the way. Don't wait too long. Okay? Don't wait until that patient is on the operating table before you reach out and get help. You know, I can help you navigate through this. And in addition to that, you know, we've got strategies we're using right now for clubs that really are not in so-called turnaround mode. We're in growth mode, but also some of those strategies we could also move over here that could potentially exponentially, you know, grow your business. And so again, folks, you know, Jim Thomas, that's who I am. And if you enjoy the content that we deliver, hey, consider hitting the subscribe button. You know, hit the like button. It helps the algorithms, helps us, you know, show up more in search and what YouTube has out there. If you've got, you know, colleagues and friends and associates that you feel could benefit from the information, you know, certainly we'd appreciate it if you'd hit that share button as well. So again, my name's Jim Thomas. Hope you've enjoyed the material we've had for you today, and hope you all have a great day. Thank you.